Yo, yo, yo.
What's good, Marlon?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good over here. Doing good over here. Been a busy week. Busy week at work. Definitely a busy week in the tech world. Really interested in the things we got lined up today to talk about.
Yeah, man. Same. Tech world. I'm over here in the government capital as well, nation's capital,
All
district,
right.
chocolate city, if you
All
will.
right.
All
All
the
right.
good old nicknames. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's been interesting. We didn't have a chance to talk about this, so I think we'll kick it off with this. I was invited to an event yesterday here in DC, and it was the Forum IT 100, which they were recognizing some of the of individuals who have made impact in the tech community, within like the last year or so. And so super dope. But also too, they had
Cool,
like some
cool.
keynote speakers and stuff too as well. And so one of those speakers was, and please forgive me, was the I guess like the leader for the census, and she was talking about the infrastructure of what they built for the last census up until then, and so they had integration of AI. They supported multiple languages and things like that, and then they sort of roadmap with like what they're looking forward to, moving forward, and how they're going to integrate, some of these things. And then also too, the some company from the IRS spoke as well, and so it was.
Very government. Very official. It sounds like you got the Census Bureau and the IRS. Yeah, you're definitely in DC.
Yeah, but it was good because it was like you kind of got to see um you kind of got to see how some of the our government entities are thinking and integrating and looking forward to build solutions and everything using technologies like AI, and
Mhm.
it was good to see. It was rewarding to see, because I mean I know in some areas of government, they start using like punching cards, and stuff, and so yeah, man, that was rewarding to see and fun to see, and so shout out to them.
Shout out to the government, man. They really tried their hardest. It's tough. It's tough to be in tech and in the government because the first thing you're going to think about is security. You're trying to roll out. You're trying to roll with the latest and greatest. Hop on whatever's new and hip out there. And oftentimes, unless the government created it itself, it's going to be like, nah, not so fast. We
Is
got a stack of paperwork to go through as far as approvals on getting this.
is it tough because it's tough, or is it tough because of the talent market, the industry and stuff that's happening right now, or do you think it's just tough? Period.
Well, I think that it is tough for a couple of reasons. The talent market in the industry, I think it probably is as strong as it's been as far as a talent market out there. I would suspect. The industry though, like when you think about government, it's uh everyone knows, you land that government job, it's cushy. You can park, and parking is not a bad thing, but
Mhm.
when you get that government job, you're going to see a lot of your folks from yesteryear. um
Mhm.
you may see some people that watch like honeymooners when it was on the air, and saw the transitions from black and white TV to color TV. You can you get, there's people, there's, so you'll get people like that in there. Typically, and this is just my own experience, it's tough to get those people to adopt new technologies. These
Yeah.
people have been there, years, decades before you got there, and their stuff is still running. So
It still works.
still works. So there is the
Mhm.
if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind
Sure.
of, first and foremost, rule of thumb there. Uh, so it's tough for a government, for anything in the government, in my opinion, to stay as up to date as it could.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people will say stuff like, well, why can't we just vote on our phones, and why can't a lot of this stuff just be digitized and automated. And, you know, you're up against the wall that you're up against is security a lot of the time, security. And we want everything operating within the government to be as accurate and as secure as we can. So that means everything has to be tested and vetted and tested and vetted.
Yeah, I'm going to lean towards it's less security, is less worry about security, more so if it is not broke, don't fix it.
Okay.
You know, because also when it's time to upgrade, when it's time to develop a new technology, that also requires new skill sets, and it requires the workforce to either grow with it or get left behind.
Yeah.
And I think it's more so that. I mean, and I don't even think that's also just in government. I mean, I'm pretty confident you've seen and you've been a part of companies, teams where
municipalities for sure.
Yeah, they have. They're intentionally. Dang, I hate to put it this way. They're intentionally keeping things a certain way because it provides job security for them.
Well, that's what the guy's thinking, I'm sure. I mean, the individual who is in charge of the system, yeah, for sure. But at the top, the only thing that they're going to care about is the bottom line. So, you know, for what you just laid out right there, it's really about the incumbent kind of staff that they got, because you know that could stand in the way. It's like, you know, I learned Perl for this back in '88. You know, I'm not trying to learn anything else. So I'm going to stand in the way of any new technology coming. But I would say that along with that, you know, there's only so much that you can get away with. They can make it difficult, but they can't stand completely in the way of something that's going to be overwhelmingly helpful.
I agree, but they definitely can. It can definitely be delayed.
And I think jam it up.
I think you see that across healthcare, government, banking. You know, there's definitely systems or processes, everything that are still alive there that probably shouldn't be, especially if you want to be in the forefront of things like security.
And you know, a lot of it has to do with contracts too, because a lot of contracts, if you know, those things will be multi-year sometimes for certain software suites or something like that you're using. So, you know, we already got that. We got to wait for the contract to run out, and you know, if that's a couple years, who knows what the wave's gonna be then? You know.
Remember the good old days when, like, your community, your zip code, your apartment complex signed like a 10-year deal with Comcast?
Yeah.
Now you're locked in to a service, internet provider, phone service, whatever it may be. That you're like, oh my god, I wish I could switch.
Yeah.
So,
what you guess?
Yeah, man. So here, I'm gonna kick this off here, man. Man, guys, number one, man, welcome. Thank you, and everything for tuning in, joining in. If you guys don't know, you know, man, we're a couple of individuals. We're a couple of builders. We're a couple of engineers, software engineers. We're a couple of, you know, AI architects, cloud engineers as well. Most importantly, man, we're just a couple. We're fans of the space of artificial intelligence, and we've been doing this podcast privately for like, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years, and then finally we kind of got to the point where it was like, you know what, this probably be beneficial to the rest of the world. And so with that, man, we decided to come on here and talk about some of the things that we're seeing, building, some of the things that also too we predicted. We've been very, very good at that. We've been very good at predicting what's next. We've been very bad at predicting when, because things are just moving. Things are moving at like a weird speed. It's like, oh man, they got here really quick, and then like, oh, we're still not be able to do that yet. And so with that, man, we created this podcast, man. This is, you know, AI with Friends, man. Your weekly podcast, kind of get to know your different things. This is happening into artificial intelligence, GenAI, some of the building components. We get to cover some of your favorite companies here, like OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, and so on and so on. With that, man, we're going to enter into one of the companies we haven't talked about as of yet, which is McKinsey and Company. McKinsey and Company did an article not too long ago, and they said generative AI has the potential to add anywhere from 2.6 to 4.4 trillion dollars annually across industries, reshaping functions like customer operations, R&D, marketing, and software engineering. Key industries like banking, pharmaceuticals are seeing transformation potential from personalized customer interactions to accelerating drug discovery. I said the technology promises significant productivity gains, but requires businesses to address adoption within the workforce readiness. Adrian, man, that's a large number, 2.6 to 4.4 trillion dollars. You know, this is the potential what we can see with the AI economic impact and everything, particularly here on us Americans and stuff. Primarily, man, what's your thoughts and stuff here?
Yeah, it's just going to get. I think that's it really kind of reinforces my viewpoint of where I see things right now. I see, Facebook has said recently that, the internal use of AI tools has increased their productivity. Mm-hmm. I think, and ADP was another company cited to say that like the exact same thing. And it's, from a software engineer's perspective, I think as far as the early adopters, I think, the software engineers are getting the most utilization out of it, because we've seen, those reports that X% of code that's in GitHub currently is AI generated, which I believe it was a significant portion, like over half.
It's like 30 to 40% already, or something like that.
30, 40% already, so approaching half. Yeah. So it's significant. That means that, really in lieu of, typing out a lot of syntax, let's just take it from that perspective. Just in lieu of typing out the syntax that you need, even with all the keyboard shortcuts in the world and whatever code editor that you have, whatever templates that you have, the AI is getting to a point where it can do that simple stuff a lot more effectively than you can, and faster. Maybe not more effectively. Sorry. Whew, let me backtrack there. Not more effectively, but faster. There's going to be the code that it's going to generate isn't going to be the most optimized. But if it's just regular standard boilerplate kind of code mixed in with, some other jazz, it's like you would be really shooting yourself in the foot by not using AI to help you out as a software engineer. And it's just going to go up. I mean, the broader adoption in the workforce, I think, is going to come through tools and integrations like, Google integrations and, that are already on the suites that people already, that are attached to the suites that people already utilize. So we'll see what that effect has there. But, there's one personal thing I got to bring up about it is that, when I was first working with computers, one of my first jobs was just help desk. So that's just fixing computers. I worked for a mobile computer repair company too for a little bit. What I noticed then is just like the real frustration. People get so frustrated when their computers aren't doing what they tell it to do.
Yeah.
And when I was there, it was like banging on like, why won't it do this? Or why? See, it's doing that thing again. And why won't it do this?
Yeah.
When it comes to the, over time, hopefully those people have learned more and become, they're less frustrated now. But I would have to say that the average user experience with generative AI, or like, what would you call so what say like Chat GPT, for instance.
Yeah, there's generative AI. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's just there. When I introduce people to it and they use it, I feel that same vibe again of just the frustration of I'm asking it to say it this way and do this thing, and it's not doing it, and I don't know what to do. That is some, in my own, experience of putting things together and measuring the impact and how effective things are. That is a hump that people have got to get over. Like the population in general is going to have to get over in order to be more comfortable using AI products and having it appropriately, speed up their workflow and take a lot off of their plate. A lot of people don't know how to use it. So they'll put in the first prompt or, the first request, and they don't like what they get. They get frustrated. They get up, they walk away, or they'll say, I'll just do this myself. This is more frustrating
This doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're still there. But that story is not the same as the software engineers, really perspective on it. But that's just how it is right now. Do I think it's temporary? Yeah, I do. This is going to be like AI is going to be up against I think everything that we do, and it's going to keep kind of bouncing up against everything that we do until it finds a place to lock in. And when it does, the masses will see what we're experiencing, which is this great productivity tool.
Yeah, I think the most simplest way to explain the benefit, and particularly around the speed of these tools and what it does for your productivity, what it will do for the workforce, is you have two people leave their house at the same time. Let's say they're neighbors, and they're both going to the grocery store. One person pulls up Waze. The other person pulls up MapQuest.
Okay. All right. Two dinosaurs. Gotcha. We got a T-Rex and a you got a T-Rex and a Stegosaurus in the back seat.
Wait. I mean, Waze is modern.
Oh, yeah.
But you pull up MapQuest versus Waze. And I would say Waze is equivalent to using a generative AI tool, to kind of help you get to a destination. And you can do it the old way and everything, or the way you're comfortable with, which is using MapQuest. It'll get you there. You get there. You get to your goals eventually and everything. But you're gonna be missing out on time, speed, as well. And then also too, Waze also helps you integrate things like looking out for accidents, police, whatever it may be, potholes. And so it's like that's kind of like how I look at this, particularly around the workforce. I mean, Stanford and MIT did a research, and they said that they've seen that generative AI tools has already added, the people who are using it every single day has already added up to like 30 to 40% productivity, to the day-to-day work aspect. And so it's one of those things that I don't even try to convince people to integrate it, to use it and everything. I also do for like a good majority has easily at this point probably used it once, if not consistently. I think the consistent numbers are a little bit more lower. But I think also too, like once you've seen that, I think you can also too kind of start to get a insight of how the economic impact will be, on our society. And so I also see this as I think it's gonna be a requirement in the job field, in the job market, to understand how to use these tools. I believe in 5 years you're going to have a new term called AI literate.
AI literate.
Yeah, you're gonna have a new term called AI literate, where people are going to be looking at people who don't know how to use these tools as AI literate, and it won't be a good thing, and stuff. And so just like right now, computer illiterate. You still got people who are computer illiterate. You're gonna have people who are AI illiterate, and those people is going to kind of like fall behind and kind of like feel some of that. And so, I mean, the four categories that it spoke on in an article from McKinsey was customer operations, R&D, marketing, and software engineering. I mean, as software engineers, we're definitely seeing that already, like you mentioned already. Customer operations. I mean, I think that's one of the big things because the ability to have. Okay, I'll give you one. We figured out with the AI phone agents we've been building, we figured out how to give it memory based off the previous calls that it already has with the AI phone agent.
Yeah.
You know, so meaning when you call your dentist office and the AI phone agent picks up and the AI phone agent is like, "Hey, Susan, hey, we were super excited to have you last Thursday. We see like right now the appointment looked good. Everything went well and everything. Susan, would love to have you again. Hey, what can we help you with?" And so it's already referenced back to like your previous experience, or it can also understand that your previous experience, your previous issue wasn't solved, you know, or nobody got back to you. So it can automatically, you know, scale that up as a priority, you know, for a particular team. And so I think in customer operations it's I think it's the people who's going to win in that area is going to be people who can be the most creative.
Oh, for sure.
And I think it's going to be the people who are the most creative, and also you'll see like the most in value and stuff with it too as well.
It's so tough. It's so tough because you can be as creative as you want, man. But like in the AI space, as soon as you are, it's easily replicable. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's tough.
Yeah, I think it's on the. I think there's always concerns. I think the concerns are valid. Particularly around the workforce and the impact of that. You know, I think a lot of times people are worried about it's going to take their job, and I would say yes, and like I still believe it will replace some roles. I don't think it's going to replace a significant amount of roles, but I think the roles that are repetitive without having to think will be replaced, you know, pretty quickly. Um, you know, with set tools and set solutions. Um, but I also think that the ones who embrace it will be empowered by it to elevate and to execute and to build, you know, new solutions and everything that the world may need.
Yeah. If you have, you know, 30 to 30 to 100 emails to answer a day, you know, it's that's you need AI. You need some help.
I mean, you got people that's that full-time draw. I mean,
Yeah.
you got people who are, you know, responding to emails and stuff all day. You know.
Yeah, but if the person that is, say, engineering lead or whatnot, and he also has answered that amount, or someone who is like head of procurement or something, and they have to do all of this correspondence as well as all of this, coordination. Um, Not having to write those emails, not having to, the generative side of that will, you know, restore their hairline. It for sure will. That'll restore your hairline better than a trip to Turkey. Sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think that. Yeah, I'm a little surprised that I don't hear more about AI integration in the procurement lane. Um, I thought that will probably be one of the first things that will just like get gobbled up.
Yeah,
And I see some companies, agencies have like kind of banned it, if you will, which I also think is like the wrong decision. I think you don't ban. I think you put structure and guidelines around it. You know,
yeah.
to make sure you're getting the proper output and people are using it properly. Um, but yeah, I think that's surprising to see that, you know, it's not being used as fast as I thought it was going to be in that area.
It's coming because we've seen some supply chain optimization AI tools. C3 was one that we covered.
Hmm.
think it was a couple weeks ago, that's, has one of their suite, one of their pieces of their suite of applications is focused on the supply chain side of things. So it's just like, you're right. It's right there. And it's a matter of plugging in the inputs. And it'll be able to, for sure, help you out and source a lot of things that you missed.
Yeah.
And get out ahead of things too. For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, speaking of getting out ahead of things, Meta announced that they say that their AI content contributed to less than 1% of election-related misinformation across its platforms during the global elections this year. It says their efforts included rejecting over 500,000 image requests for election deepfakes, dismantling convert influence operations. Meta emphasizes focusing on behavior patterns rather than content origins to effectively manage misinformation, and plans to enhance its policies based off their findings. Adrian, man, Meta said, "Hey, this, we're no longer to blame here. You can't blame social media. You can't blame us. They said they contributed less than 1% of election-related misinformation."
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I mean, from the way that they measured it, their 1%, I'm sure, is accurate. Now, they seem to have approached this in a kind of a way that this is what they caught. These are the things that they caught that are out there. So it was pretty cool. They had a good effort here. It's not like this was just a single, a really small scope effort here. They had, really, protocols or whatnot to identify, coordinated inauthentic behavior, CIB networks, which are just basically influence campaigns with a bunch of, different accounts that are just spreading misinformation. They said that they were able to identify a portion of them and ban some of them. But, and as part of their efforts too, they said that they rejected 590,000 requests to generate images of President Trump and Vice President Harris, Governor Walz, Vice President-elect Vance, and President Biden. So I think that it's commendable. It's a commendable effort to go ahead and do that. So, not allowing Meta's AI image generator to create that kind of deep fake nonsense. But what I think is, this is a moment in time right now. Say you're able to catch 1%. I'd be interested to see what that number is in 4 years or in 8 years, because this is something that's only going to get better. And, you could be these, coordinated inauthentic behavior networks that you're finding could be just like, the start of bigger things, more efficient influence campaigns, and more accurate deepfakes. The one thing that's it's very identifiable for the most part right now, in AI generated just by the human eye. When we see it, we're like, this is AI. Generally, there's some that I'm sure will fool you, I'm sure, but when we come across them, meaning the tools that are available to the public and that people are using, what that's generated is something that's, visually you can kind of tell that something is off. When that kind of uncanny valley, it's going to shorten. And it's, we're going to get, through that to, realism at some point, I would suspect. realism where you're not going to be able to really tell if this is fake or if it's real or not. So in short, I say that like this 1% is, I'm glad that they're ahead of it. They have like, a strike team or whatever they put together to, identify this kind of behavior around the election. I would say more staff for that team is going to be needed for sure. And y'all got a part of me, man. I decided to play sports outside on a 45-degree day, and now I have a runny nose. Congratulations.
There you go. Here's my question.
Yeah.
Here's my question. Do you get an applause after you were originally part of the issue?
I mean, the fact that, it was egregious what Facebook has let transpire. I mean, so that's a good point. I mean, I'm with you, and that's a good point. That's a good point.
I mean, it's less than 1% now. What was it on the last election?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think they had that strike team then. I don't think that strike team had formed.
I think they know that number, and they would do it. Nothing. It will be nothing can happen to get that number out of them. You know, I think they know what that number is, but they're like, yeah, we refuse. We only want the positive light and stuff here.
For sure.
Yeah, I think this is. I mean, this is HR at its best for Meta. This is
PR.
Yeah, a PR. Yeah. So thank you. Everything. This is PR at its best. This is a part of the rebrand. This is a part of we've turned we have new side and stuff here. Facebook is not Meta. These are two different companies, and stuff here. Even though some of the same people might no. We're a completely different company.
Don't look at that. Don't look at that.
Yeah, that's in the past. Like forget that and everything. Yeah. So everything. And so yeah, I think it's I think it's the right thing to do. My question becomes, if we weren't the right thing to do and everything, did the right thing to do, was it too late? Meaning there were individuals and families who got impacted, by seeing misinformation, seeing things on social media and reading these things on these platforms. And also too, with that, they were a part of silencing. They was part of pushing, set agendas, as well. And so, that's why I proposed the question, do you get an applause then when you was originally part of the issue? And so, I don't know. Do you celebrate? Do you celebrate the bully because he's turned the new cheek now, and he no longer wants to breed up another 100 people? He wants to turn new eyes, and now he wants to help people. Everything, like, how do you balance that, especially the people who were impacted by the bully? So like, what's the balance and stuff there?
Yep. Vis-a-vis Stanley Tookie Williams, one of the founding members of the Crips, went to prison, turned his life around, wrote a bunch of children's books. Snoop Dogg was on the campaign to get him pardoned from his I think he had a death sentence, but that didn't go through. Because sometimes when you do so much damage, there's no path of redemption for you when it comes to your own credibility.
Unless you change your name.
Unless you change your name. Or, there's I'm not gonna say that. But yeah, anyway. So I don't know, man. I think that around the election, Facebook's issue was that, or what happened last time is that people were able to buy the ads. And through the Facebook ad network, they were able to set up misinformation campaigns. So I want to know, really.
And it wasn't just like ads either. It wasn't just like the political side of things. We're talking about misinformation around COVID, as well, where that directly impacted a lot of people, too, as well. And so, again, like, you were a part of the problem, and now you've turned to, I mean, yeah, you're doing what's right and stuff now, but what is the balance of doing what's right when there was so much damage done in the previous, your previous life, your previous, tenure.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this too, and it's not enough that I'm seeing in the statement from Meta regarding the any changes that were done with their ad network around this. So what they're laying out is that in the scope in which they're measuring this, I think, is the scope of it's what any social network is going through right now. So this applies to all of them, because we're just talking about fake information, AI generated images, and fake misinformation information. Like, so
I mean, we talked about the new kid on the block last week, Blue Sky.
Yeah. If we are to say that 1% of, like, they received only like 1% of that, then I'm to assume that that is extremely low across other, platforms as well. Because if they were talking about, let me look at the release here. We talk about numbers here. We were directed, 590,000 requests to generate images of the presidents of the people involved in the election. But that's not the only thing, because the AI, it's tough, because it's like, it's the issues around like all the issues around the whatever president is going to be. That's the AI misinformation that we need to be aware of. So if they're spreading misinformation about some bill that's going to be passed, that's going to have some catastrophic effect or something like that, or misrepresenting some information that's out there with, AI generated or augmented imagery to basically distort a truth that's out there. I find it sketchy. I think it's a commendable statement. I think that it's fine, but maybe not. Maybe commendable is a stretch. You're right, because given its history, I think that we probably needed something a little bit more extensive than what this statement goes into, for sure.
I mean, I think we've heard from certain individuals, like, you don't get to celebrate for what you're supposed to do anyway.
I mean, I don't think that's painting with it. That's a little harsh, because
I mean, but the opposite was what though? What
the
them
opposite
not doing was a significant impact with misinformation, being being silenced and stuff in a lot of ways. I mean, the opposite was even harsher.
Yeah, the opposite's harsher. But if a company does something wrong, and then they say, okay, we're not going to do that anymore, we're going to do things this way. It's like, okay, it's up to the consumer then to choose whether or not they are going to trust what that company, trust or put their money there, basically.
I think it matters the impact of what the wrong decision took in. I think it matters what was the impact of the wrong decision, or what you ignored or didn't do or added to, whatever it may be. And I think the impact of that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. What should have happened then? Like, so are you more on the side of like Meta should have just not said anything about it? Rather than
No, it's not. It's not on the side of it. It's not shouldn't said it. I said it. Anything about it and everything. It's the understanding that you are a social platform that allows thoughts, communication, shared opinions to live and go within either direction. It is very challenging as a company to then decide what you deem to see as what should be appropriate and what should not. Because when you start to allocate, that power, and then now it becomes less about constitution, more about feelings. And so, it's less about freedom of speech, more about, oh, no, I don't think this should be on there. And when you are an employee of said company, then a lot of times you have access or the ability to remove, persuade, or whatever it be, and that's just not your role. Your role and what a platform like Facebook was built was to allow the world to connect, and the world has connected beautifully within this platform, but then they started to decide what they wanted the connectivity of communication to be further. Problem. And I think that's when you start to that's when you start to and it's two sides to it. I mean,
I gotta say, to that point, it's got to be moderated to some degree. Like all the platforms have got to be moderated, and there has to be a control over what is posted there, just in general.
I mean, I get, you know, I think it's hard to do it with speech though, you know, because it's like there's nothing illegal about, you know, cussing out a policeman. Like it's frowned upon, you know, everything like, but there's nothing, you know, illegal and everything else stuff about it. But there's something definitely illegal about child pornography, even if you're talking about it, you know, everything, you know, for sure. There's issues and stuff there. And so I think when you align with the law in some of these areas, you know, then I think you can have a more delicate balance on how you start to monitor these things. And in the last 10 years, particularly the election, there was no balance. The balance was all based off emotion. And now you're making it a human connectivity platform, not a software connectivity platform, which now you're gonna go in issues, because now you're gonna have to decide what human emotion you're going to agree with on what side of the fence.
No, I mean, it's a little bit more specific than that, because it is what I allow on what lies that I allow to be spread on my platform. You know, so it's not just because I don't like
even that you're running into issues. Even that you run into, okay, watch this. Let's take COVID for example. Let's take COVID for example. Anything, Dr. Fauci and stuff when he was coming in. One of the things that he was stating, basically how to protect yourself, you know, or he went from wear a mask to don't wear a mask to wear a mask to don't wear a mask or anything. Now, okay, I get on the platform and I'm saying, guys, you gotta wear a mask. Dr. Fauci just said, no, you don't need to wear a mask or anything. Who's right? Where's the fact in that?
Yeah.
There's no fact. That's still opinionated.
In that situation, in that situation, I can't say that it was opinionated. I think that when you have a doctor like Dr. Fauci or someone who is saying that they are the authority on,
by the way, he's on the run. That too.
Yeah. So I don't even know. You got to update me on that. I don't even know about that. But just like, okay, so like say we had Neil deGrasse Tyson,
okay,
you know, who was also
Mr. Pluto,
very vocal, Mr. Pluto himself, very vocal proponent of all the COVID protocols. You know, so you don't just take him for instance. Like, as more information is coming out about this, then like, you know, things change. You know, when there was a big scare, from my understanding, having lived through it, about just how communicable or how, you know, transmittable this is and how deadly it is. There was a lot of unknowns about that. So as that information is coming out, it's coming out from the top. The protocols are being set as far as what the standards and what you should be doing. Those protocols are then given as mandates down to, you know, really establishments, organizations, all this other stuff. So it's a funky time. I mean, that's a tough that's a tough like comparison, because
but that's the reality of it. It is an equal amount of difficult conversation as it is around the election.
Not at all, because around the election you have things that if you have a fake news campaign that's going to say this party wants to put babies on spikes in Minnesota. And they want you could do that. Like you can have that, but that is something that's easily fact checkable. You can just look and see whether or not that's actually going on. When it comes to something like a virus that we don't even know what is, and we're still figuring it out. It's escaped from a research lab or got something in a wet market or something like. We're still trying to figure out what that is. There's going to be changes of information that come out, and it's going to update.
You're proving my point, because even in the midst of changes, even in the midst of research, even in the midst of information being shared, everything, in the midst of that, you had platforms that was removing certain things as everybody's trying to figure this out. My problem and stuff with these areas is that.
Okay, so like the COVID misinformation stuff. So like they were taking down posts that mentioned COVID and things like that.
Yeah, you could have put a poster there like, I just cured my 5-year-old by putting raw onions and everything on her feet and remove the stuff and everything from. Watch this. That's a fact for that mom. The platform saw it as misinformation because the FDA or whoever. No. Or the FDA or whoever said that, like, oh, no, that actually doesn't work or anything. And we're not going to get into this because this is a turn to the whole thing. My larger issue is when you're not actually fact checking, you're simply checking based off who is paying y'all.
Well, has there been information about like a payola, like a kind of
oh fuck yeah,
that's what
Fauci's on a run for. I've had the privilege and Adrian, as you know, I've had the privilege of building some of these AI solutions for doctors and everything, neurologists, and everything. And now I also had the privilege to freely talk about things like COVID because they've lived through it, they worked through it, and stuff like that. Bro, a lot of these doctors are pissed. They were still pissed because they feel like even they were silenced in this area, and they were just told to shut up and just go this direction and do what we said we was going to do and everything. And they're not following the science or anything. They simply just kind of follow the money and stuff in this area. And so, yeah, I mean, that's my bigger issue, which we should probably change the subject.
Yeah.
But it's things like that. And it's like, bro, you can't say that this is misinformation and that is not, simply because the person that it's coming from simply hasn't wrote you a fucking check. That's my larger issue. Everything, particularly when you're a platform and now you're impacting millions, billions of people, while that onion on a 5-year-old foot actually did help somebody, but the post said, no, you simply just need to go get vaccinated, and that's going to help you more. And the person who got vaccinated had a larger issue, had a larger response to it within their system, why they could have had a separate way or a natural way to do this and everything. But simply you want to step in because you see it as a fact check source because somebody wrote you a fucking check. Kiss my ass. Next subject.
Well, this is what I say too. And here's the one thing I got to say too, which is it's just to change the subject and even off of this, and that is just for this, anyone listening to this, know your roots, know where you come from. Humans have been around for
I'll take it a step further.
Time, and there's many things and old wisdom that you can really abide by and live a healthy life. So,
I'll take it a step further.
It'll help you.
You're right. Know your roots. Know where you come from. Also, know your country. We live in a country that is full of greed.
Okay.
We live in a country who are people who are money hungry. Institutions are money hungry. Organizations are money hungry. And a lot of these individuals, organizations, institutions rather see their bank getting checked instead of getting filled and actually making sure they do right by somebody and everything, or right by the larger majority, or right by the population, or right by segments and everything. That itself, I really have a majority issue and stuff with.
For sure.
No, I want to fight. No, I'm just playing. All right, so let's here we go. A Canadian startup, Historiant, raised $693 million to develop AI training servers and processes to compete with NVIDIA. With plans to release their new AI chips, the company aims to disrupt the AI chip market while leveraging this funding to expand its this engineering team. The move underscores its intensifies the competition in the AI hardware sector. It says this now is they're looking at this as a legitimate contender or challenger, if you will, to NVIDIA. Adrian, I'll start with this one. I'm gonna keep it very, very short.
Cool.
I don't see it.
Don't see it.
I don't see it. It is. I got to learn. So one of my good friends, he has a couple thousand GPUs. Particularly, he was doing mining and everything on cryptocurrency, and so I got to learn more about GPUs and everything. It's kind of like being involved and around stuff. And I got to understand the difference between GPUs and CPUs and the use cases it's a for or such. But also too, I got to understand the difficulty of building a GPU. The difficulty of building GPUs for a particular use case, and then also too, when you want to do this for AI compute, training servers and anything, that's another level and another levels of difficulty. And I respectfully don't, and let me say this very carefully: $693 million is a lot of money.
It's
watch this. It's a lot of money. I don't think it's a lot of money for hardware. I don't think it's a lot of money.
I was going to touch on that.
Yeah, for particularly like building GPUs and everything. And so maybe they figure some things out, and maybe they have. I mean, you got to know some things already to raise almost $100 million. And so, but as a challenger though to NVIDIA, who is not only off to the races, they are leading the market. Not only leading the market, they're dominating the market. Not only they dominate the market, they were simply declaring a new market every 90 days. Like they're just out here. They're playing with house money and stuff. And so, as a challenger, I don't see it. As somebody who can get into the space, anything, sure. I mean, I think a lot of times we've been taught that number one is either number one or nothing, but I mean, Lyft is still a multi-billion-dollar company, a multi-billion-dollar company, and so maybe they were going to try to position themselves as the Lyft in this area, which I think that type of opportunity is wide open. You still got Intel and everything. All those other companies are still trying to figure this out too as well. And so, so sure, for sure. But yeah, $700 million is a lot of money. And didn't OpenAI, wasn't that their intent when they raised their money and then they switched their plans? They deviated from it.
Yeah, into the chip area, right? Into some R&D around chips.
Yeah, and then they deviated from it. They said, we're gonna leave it alone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like they built that first chip with Broadcom, but that's they didn't. That was back in October. They announced that, but they scaled back its foundry. Yeah, their actual ambition to build the actual chips. Yeah. I found this one interesting. I had never heard of this guy who founded this or is the CTO of this company. He didn't found it, but Jim Keller. So this is where on AI with Friends, these stories just start to bleed into one another as far as the narratives that really you can follow by just following the podcast. Mm-hmm. But we talked before about the state of Intel. Intel, if you didn't know, was they're not doing too great. So right now, their CEO just stepped down. What's his name? Gelsberg. Stepped down. Sorry. Pat Gelsinger stepped down. So a lot of people are thinking like heads had to roll because the company's not doing great. And the company's not doing great, a lot of people say, because they are a chip set designer and a chip yet manufacturer at the same time. And they're spread too thin, potentially. Not being able to do well enough in both categories to be sustainable. Now, Jim Keller, sorry, comes from Intel. He was at Intel back in 2018 here. April 2018, joined Intel as a senior vice president. And he resigned in 2020 because of his feelings around their decision to outsource more of its production. So when I read that, I thought to myself, we have a Guilfoyle here. We have an engineer. All right, Jim Keller, or Jeff, I'm going to keep getting his name right. Jim Keller is a microprocessor engineer, and he's an OG at this, and being that he's worked at AMD, Apple, Tesla, and he was the lead architect of the AMD K8 microarchitecture. And that includes the original Athlon 64. So this guy knows his stuff. So this is a guy who, according to just what I'm reading here, seems to be passionate about building and kind of doing it himself. So he's at Intel. They want to outsource it. He's like, we can put this together. And I got to say, man, like I've worked with people like that before, and I love them. I love them. So like I'm biased in this opinion here because I've been with the person in the build room
who can also build. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's putting together the Cisco switch, got a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. Look, we just gonna do this. Pop, 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 pop. See that? Top, top, top. And just like seriously, the I've worked with some really talented people. And it's also it's the same reason why Elon is able to attract so much talent. Bingo. That's what I was
also Elon said he's still familiar. Yeah, he said interview with Marquise Brownlee. He said he still spends 50% of his time engineering, and that just blew my mind. Yeah,
I don't believe that, but it's possible. He's got too much going on to spend. If you're spending 50% of your time engineering, and you got 6 companies, dude, you need to stop engineering. Stop it. You need to be. You're spread. You're not.
But again, going back to your point, it's like I can see that because that's also what still attracts individuals like yourself.
Exactly. And I'll say this, I trust Jim Keller in this because he has that proven track record of the engineering side of it. So you're thinking about a company with someone at the top who can get just as down in the mud as someone else, which, I haven't checked out Elon Musk's GitHub repo recently, but so maybe it's popping. I don't know, but this dude has a pedigree behind him, and on top of that too, just going back to the story of the CTO here, he also founded in 2023 Atomic Semi, which is a company that makes foundry tools for small scale fabrication equipment. So that sounds familiar. It's chip making. So this is a guy who is straddling 2 companies now. One company is, could be, vital to the success of the other. So it is kind of sounding familiar as far as the Elon Musk story. So he's saying that at Tenstorrent, they're going to build these chips for AI specifically. And they got a client list of people that are, I guess have pre-orders and all that. I think that if you were to have confidence around someone, I would say that, like, as far as intellectual, as far as like the know-how of how to do it, this seems like a good place to put your chips is with this company. But the looking at
$700 million worth of chips.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I can see you putting your because it's spread across different investors. So it was led by Samsung Securities, AFW Partners, other investors included Hyundai and Jeff Bezos's Expeditions, among others. So he wasn't alone in the $693 million raise. It was, parties that were putting in each their own portion of that. And so on paper, behind a seemingly, really technical, a guy with a lot of technical acumen and a solid history. However, looking at the history though, it is, how you can let your passion you can be so passionate that you can shoot yourself in the foot. In that, you take on too much, you can be too ambitious.
And not focus on one thing, or
you getting mad in Intel,
spread it too wide.
How volatile are you too personally? Because if you're leaving these companies from like disputes over the direction of how it's going to go, what trust do I have of an investor that you're not going to have a fight up in the C-suite? You know what I mean? Oh, because you want to go one way and the board wants to go another way. It's tough, That's one thing that I can see about that. But in and of itself, I do believe that the more money that we put into the manufacturing of chips, especially domestically, is going to pay off. I do. I think that there needs to be, since NVIDIA has so much of the market share of that, yes, let's start innovating. Let's start kind of thinking of better and more efficient ways to really just like cut back on that monopoly there. Potential, not monopoly, but like that crazy market share on the chips.
What do you
increase competition? Yeah.
Do you, and speaking of competition, do you think there is that much talent available that Apple, NVIDIA, OpenAI on the hardware side of things haven't already gobbled up?
So you mean like new talent on the hardware side?
No, I mean, I think I don't even think new talent. I think if you're gonna be building and challenger to NVIDIA, you definitely have to have seasoned people. Now, yes, you can convince people to come over and jump ship, and things like that. But is there really that much talent and everything on the specifically of building processors, anything, chips, GPUs, stuff like that, to be a significant challenger to NVIDIA?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. I think that what I think is that there is a lot of, people that are in hardware and that do that. And, you probably don't hear about it. You probably don't. That's not the people that are getting really the headlines. A lot of the time it's the developers, it's the programmers, the people who work with more in software than the, the more like talk to the machine level programmers and engineers, the ones that are writing compilers and all that. They're still out there, man. Like I wouldn't say that there is a lack of talent. I would say that probably if a company came along and gave those people a chance to shine, a lot of people would jump on it.
Okay. Cool. All right. So here we go. Anthropic. Anthropic has now released a MCP. So Anthropic has released an open sourcing the model context protocol, and a promise to bridge the gap between AI assistants and data sources. Enables seamless integration. Developers now can create MCP connectors for tools like Google Drive, Slack, GitHub. Early adopters like Block and Apollo report significant improvements in its functionality. This unified protocol simplifies AI data interactions, paving the way for a scalable, connected system. And so Anthropic now, man, has made some additional moves here around MCP, man. Adrian, what's your thoughts?
every week we have something to say about Anthropic. They are really doing a lot. They are really doing a lot. Claude 3.5 Sonnet in itself, like that's one of the best reviewed LLMs out there when it comes to coding. Um, so I, am a fan of what Anthropic does. We talked about, all the moves they've been making, and as far as their, upcoming their partnership with Palantir, I think that was them as well. So what this model context protocol is basically a secure way to communicate between your data and an LLM. And it's cool because it sits on, you can install it on the machine where the data lives. And, tie it into other existing platforms out there like Slack, Google Drive, Postgres, and even like Puppeteer. So like, that's basically a website scraping, add that in there with like communicating with your databases, communicating on Slack, looking at your commits in GitHub and analyzing your shared files there. We've talked before about tooling, and that being the difference. And when we talk about tooling, we talk about Anthropic. It's like they've been in that same conversation this entire time. And for them to continue to roll out these new products at the pace that they've been doing it. Oh, by the way, going back to Tenstorrent, they're going to release a new chip every 2 years, which they need to chill with that. But the
good luck.
So
you can announce a new chip every 2 years, releases something different.
That's something completely different, dog. So you have a company here that like they're just really bulking up the tooling. They're really making an effort to do that, and they're putting this through. You can install some pre-built servers through the desktop app, their desktop app, Claude Desktop, and they have plenty of guides to get started. But I think that, I use this product called Anything LLM, and using that, it's a desktop app, and you can just install it. You can install it and then use any model that you want to. You can use local models, you can use cloud models, you can, anyway. So it's a product similar to that, but I'm excited to try it because I think that it may be more focused and better optimized than what Anything LLM is doing right now. That's an open source product. Tooling. That's all I have to say. Tooling. Yeah.
So Anthropic is they're doing some significant work here. I will say they're not so I would say this companies was basically building protocols on top of API calls and everything to things like OpenAI and Anthropic. And so they realized that, so one company I know for sure that was doing this was Intuit. I believe Pinterest was doing this too as well, as well. But I know Intuit was doing this, and so basically they were building protocols on top of to make API calls, and so to talk to certain LLMs, and so they realized that a lot of companies are willing to do this, but required this if they wanted to allow their enterprise or their employees and everything to access and stuff a lot of these tools, and so. Yeah, I think it's a necessary move. I think it's a good move. I think like you said, as we're kind of getting to like this tooling enabled world, I mean, I think you're just going to need a lot of these things, and so and the ability to be able to connect your Google Drive from your CSVs to your PDFs to your documents and things like that. I can also see things like Notion, Jira, coming right behind this, so as well. And so yeah, man, I think it's the right move. This also too gives the it gives companies and organizations, the necessary superpower to be able to find information quicker, produce information quicker, be able to connect it, and essentially build, on top, solutions up on top of this. And so, yeah, man, I think it's exciting, everything Anthropic is doing, and as always, man, they're definitely heading in the right direction. We're definitely going to see who's going to become the Uber and the Lyft, in the LLM world and everything. I think,
what's going to be the standard protocol too? If this protocol is going to be somehow, at some point, which communication protocol between the LLM and your data is going to be the standard. That's going to be interesting.
Yep. Okay, cool. Lastly here, man, we got there's been some concerns around sustainability. It says the exponential energy needs for AI model training, such as your ChatGPTs, are sparking sustainability concerns. While GPUs dominate AI training, alternatives like neuromorphic and optical computing show promises in reducing energy use. So these innovations mimic brain efficiencies or use light. Our use of light. But the challenges faces the scalability and precision. That's up there. Adrian, man, do you think this is we've talked about the last couple of weeks. We talked about Microsoft. We talked about Google going to either partner or acquire old nuclear plants, to help with like this energy consumption. Do we think that is enough? Do we think we're going to kind of run out of ideas? Do we think we're going to just like, hey, we're just going to figure out a way how to reduce the energy use? Like, what's your thoughts and stuff here?
Yeah, well, I'm glad that we're looking on it, or looking at it really. What's cool about it is, hold on, give me 1 second. What is cool about it is that it's a machine. So what they're trying to do with the neuromorphic design, right? The so it's a new physics-based self-learning machines could replace the current artificial neural networks and save energy. So basically, what they're saying is that they developed a machine that has like a self-learning technique, like a physical machine. So it's going to be able to carry out training, but then train itself. And it all happens within a physical hardware device, which is kind of wild. So what they say in, I think this is like Max Planck Gesellschaft, something German, this research paper that I'm looking at now. But they're basically saying that this is basically, okay, so when training like the regular neural networks, you have all of this data, and it's basically, it relies on you having the amount of data, more data to feed it. And more data means more processing, means more power. What this is saying is that we're all going to, is this going to train itself within its own box, within its own brain? And getting into how this mimics human brain function and stuff like that, I think that's clever marketing or whatnot, but maybe the approach will work. Having a machine that'll train itself could maybe use less power. So you can have something that's just, at the end of it, you can have a model trained that's just as smart, but had used less energy, and they use a lot of comparisons to like the human body, which is cool. Like we do all these calculations in our head at any given moment, and we're so much more energy efficient than what a computer is. Like for a computer to do that, you would need, gigawatts of power. But this is something that's going to be, they're saying it's going to be more, it's not going to be human level optimization. But it's going to be something that can potentially, you know, take that requirement for a massive amount of energy and time. I mean, these models are trained for months on end, off of the data that they have. So if you have a machine that can train itself, I don't know if that'll be a shorter training time, but the way that they're laying it out here, it looks a hell of a lot more energy efficient. So I think that, because I think Facebook is looking at the nuclear reactor now. I just saw an article about that recently, I think. Looking at nuclear power, because everyone is like, well, it's carbon emissions going on here. We need a cleaner way to use this power. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that there are companies looking at this in this area. Right now, it looks just beyond concepts of a plan. You know what I mean? So we'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, I think just beyond concepts of a plan is like accurate. I think it's one of those things that we see as an opportunity and we can hope that we get there. And so, and once you get there, will that be enough? Will we have to build something else, or will we have to scale what we have, and how long would that, take? And so, I think as more individuals, institutions, organizations are educated about the capabilities of GenAI integrations, and I think we're definitely going to need. I don't think we fully understand how much we're going to need, because I mean, this is still at the bottom of the verse, stuff. And so, it's so much. I think we're going to need so much and everything. And so, I think there are steps that will help us get there. And I think there's inventions that will help us get there. And some of those inventions haven't been, brought to light yet, if not invented. And so, man, I think it's like you said, wishful thinking.
Let's keep pushing. Let's just keep pushing for the education. Let's keep pushing for the math programs, swimming, and all that, man. Because we're gonna need the math. We're gonna need people that are able to do this heavy math, because it's either you find a new device, or you find, look at the hardware way, better ways to optimize it. But it's going to come down to the algorithms too, and how best that's working. I don't know about algorithms. I don't know that part of really. I don't know the whole algorithm area is just one area. I'm glad that that I have a job and I'm able to pay my bills without a computer science degree. So that's tough work. But you gotta have that high math intelligence, that high math ability.
Okay. Also, too, man, if you guys are wondering, we didn't give our friend there a shout out and stuff at the beginning of the podcast here, man. Our good friend and co-host Sekou is at reInvent, living his best life.
Sekou, we miss you,
happy, man. We're happy and jealous at the same time.
And jealous.
Envious, by the way. Because I know he's going to come back with this big smile on his face that he saw this. This is coming, and just want to brag all day. We want to hear that.
And the number of articles we're having to hold back on, because we want the real from the horse's mouth. You know what I mean? Scoop. I really look forward to him catching us up on AWS.
That could be the whole episode next week.
Yeah. That'd be dope.
AWS and we things that was release talked about stuff there. I mean, that could be the whole episode next week. And then let's see if AWS will sponsor it as well. But man. For real. Man. Another great podcast here, man. We talked about the economic revolution around GenAI. We talked about Meta saying that, hey, we're no longer they're blame around the misinformation around elections, say that they contributed to less than 1%. Also, too, we talk about AI's growing energy demand, along with Testorant raising nearly 700 million, and then also too Anthropic announcing a new model context protocol. That's up there, and so yeah, man, John, so see you there, man. Hey, John, and so yeah, man, Adrian, man, closing thoughts and stuff there.
Guys, it's been great. It's been another great podcast. Looking forward to the next one. You can find me on my varied, not uniform name social media accounts. The most reliable one is Infamous Adrian on my X account. Marlon.
I am Marlon Avery on all platforms. You see how that rolls off the tongue, Adrian? You know, just
it does. It does.
I am Marlon Avery.
Get like you. I gotta get like you, man.
And then also too, man, we are AI with Friends podcast on all platforms as well. Yeah, man.
Yes, indeed.
Until next time.
Until next time. See you.